making ourselves open for the Lord to be with us. He is saying, I will be with you, and through the rivers they shall not overflow you. Look at the other one. Here's a second. Because what should happen if you're walking through the fire? Yeah, I mean, it's just giving us a quick answer. We would be burned up. We cannot survive walking through the fire, except what makes the difference. With the Lord, there's a change. There's a difference. With Him, when you walk through the fire, into verse 2, it says, you shall not be what? You shall not be burned, or it shall not scorch you, because it says, nor the flame shall scorch you. What a promise from God. Anybody felt like you've been through the fire lately? Am I the only one? I got a feeling some of you just afraid to raise your hand. Because we don't really want to admit, but guess what? You're here tonight. We've made it to this point. See, what the enemy wants us to do, yeah, I made it now, but I don't know about tomorrow. Well, if the Lord was with us today, shouldn't that let us know who's going to be with us tomorrow? So the Lord's going to be with us as He walks with us. And so then verse 3 finishes by saying, for I am the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, your Savior. And he went on to say here, I gave, and of course he's speaking in that place of Israel, but he said, I gave Egypt for your ransom. Anybody remember he delivered them? Ethiopia and Seba in your place. I love verse 4, since you were precious in my sight, you have been honored, and I have loved you. Does anybody believe the Lord has loved us more than we deserve? I believe that. I believe more than I deserve. I believe that the danger is if we feel like, that we start honoring ourselves as a child of God. I understand most people don't mean it in the wrong way, but when there's power of life and death in the tongue, I think if we start calling something my ministry, without us even realizing it, we're given a controlling factor over something that God is wanting us to be submissive and obedient to do. I mean, I understand they're not meaning it wrong. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they sit back and just throwing it out wrongfully. But I'm here to tell you, if we're not careful, those words can start planting certain seed in our hearts and in our lives. And this is my ministry. When I know the Lord has called me, it brings me into a much more humble place. And it brings me into a much more accountable place. And knowing that there is much more that I'm going to have to answer for. And so it makes me focus very different. And then he finished up by saying that verse 4, therefore I will give men for you and people for your life. Let me, for the sake of time, to keep taking this journey with you in Isaiah chapter 54. Would you turn there? I want you to hear a few verses of in chapter 54. I want to give you one verse, and it's actually the last verse of that chapter, Isaiah 54 verse 17. And then I'm going to move into Isaiah 55 and start with verse 1. I want you to see this one of verse 17 in Isaiah 54 verse 17. No weapon. Now, what is a weapon supposed to do, by the way? A weapon is really for a direction for destruction, or to come against you, or to be used in an offensive or even a defensive way, a weapon. But it says here, no weapon formed against you shall what? Shall prosper. Can I tell you, with the Lord, what should be coming against me and you, it has to come against Him. And so all of a sudden, what I'm saying is that the Lord's way of change is different than our way. So it may not seem a change for the better, because the Lord sometimes lets certain things come against us that we don't want. Our flesh is working against. All of these things are coming in this place to where we're saying, why? How many times do we say, why, Lord, is this happening? But look, what if we said, Lord, you must have a reason that these things are coming about. Now, Lord, if the reason is because of me, then let me submit or let me surrender myself so you can get this thing under control. Or Lord, if it really is you bringing this in and it really isn't me, then Father, let me again be submissive and obedient so you can still direct and bring through what you want. Because right now, this thing's working against my flesh. Right now, this thing is bringing me where I feel like down. But when I realize when something brings me down, do you realize what it can bring you down to? I've heard people say, well, that just brought me right down to my knees. Well, can I tell you what bowing and worshiping signifies? It is that we worship, and many times we worship Him from our knees. Perhaps the Lord may want us, and even if something needs to bring us to a place to where it puts us on our knees, or if you're looking down low enough, guess what? When you finally get as low as you can go, there's only one way to look. Anybody know? To look up. And when you start looking, I know all this sounds simple, but doesn't it start making spiritual, godly sense? That perhaps it helps us to look at our situation from a different perspective. I told someone Monday, we were riding in our vehicle. Now, when my wife's in my vehicle, I have the Jeep. I have the navigation system, with the radio. I love my XM. I'm getting to play all my Christmas stations right now, 24/7. Isn't that great for everybody that loves Christmas music, except wearing my wife out. But anyway, she don't mind it seasonal, but I could do it 24/7, 12 months out of the year. I don't know why, but that's just a weird place that I need to leave alone, walk away from. Nothing spiritual there. But I remember telling the individual as we was riding, even when my wife gets in my vehicle, 98 to 99% of the time, I won't say 100%, but she knows that I'm very close with that percentage. The screen where you can read either the phone, where my phone list is, or it can be changed to see